In movies like My Three Sons and Double Indemnity, Fred MacMurray played a charming lead role. Recall him? He became famous for the unique parts he played in great plays, but not many people know about the personal demons that tormented him. Today we will look at Fred's life story, looking at both his successes and the bad habits he picked up that led to his sad death. They were both from Wisconsin, Mauletta Martin and Frederick MacMurray. The place is where he was born. They liked music as a family. Concert violinist was his dad, and vaudeville actress and singer Fay Holderness was his aunt. Not many people from the MacMurray family stayed for long. When Frederick was very young, the family moved to Madison, Wisconsin. In the end, his dad did the right thing by teaching music there. But things were far from over for the family. Soon, they would be in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, which is where Frederick's mother was born. Frederick spent his early years in Quincy, Illinois. He focused on his schoolwork while he was in this place. He could be seen playing football, track, or baseball, among other sports. When Frederick wasn't playing sports, he worked at a nearby pea cannery to make extra money. Because of all he had done, Carroll College in Waukesha, Wisconsin, gave him a full grant. The saxophone was a new instrument that Frederick loved playing at this time. To pass the time, he learned to play the instrument and quickly became a regular in a number of neighborhood bands. Frederick continued to work on music after that. Taking lessons in the evenings at the Chicago Art Institute helped him get better at playing the saxophone. He didn't know it at the time, but this singing hobby would have a huge effect on his career path in the future. Frederick's life changed in a way he didn't expect in 1928. He drove his mother to Los Angeles to take care of her health and see family. Still, Frederick's move into show business would be made possible by this trip. Fred got work as an extra in movies in Los Angeles. Even though he still played the saxophone, he did it with the California Collegians to make extra money. The group got its start in the pit orchestra of the Warner Brothers Hollywood Theater. Even though Frederick's luck was about to change, his side job only paid him $10 a day. There were a lot of auditions before the California Collegians were chosen to be in the Broadway show Three's a Crowd. Because of this chance, Frederick packed his things and went to New York City. In New York City, Frederick's skills were seen as valuable. The show Three's a Crowd, which ran from 1930 to 1931, gave him a part. This show had a great group, with Libby Holman, Clifton Webb, and Fred Allen standing out. Frederick kept up his great Broadway career from 1933 to 1934 by starring in the musical with Sidney Greenstreet and Bob Hope. Frederick became famous in Hollywood, and his star started to rise. He started his famous movie career when he signed a deal with Paramount Pictures in 1934. In the 1930s, Frederick MacMurray was a regular in Hollywood movies. He worked with Preston Sturges and Billy Wilder, two famous directors, which was a blessing. There are a lot of famous people on his list of co-stars. Notable players also included Marlene Dietrich, Henry Fonda, Humphrey Bogart, and Barbara Stanwyck. Claudette Colbert worked regularly with Frederick. The two of them were in 7 movies together, starting with The Gilded Lily. Other popular women of the time were also in relationships with him. He worked with Katharine Hepburn and Alice Adams, Joan Crawford and Carol Lombard in Above Suspicion, and Crawford and Lombard in 4 productions. The princess walks across the table with a light touch of her fingers. There is an honest admission, a high swing, and a low swing. During this time, Frederick's parts usually showed him as a nice guy with a good heart in comedies. He also showed how versatile he was in melodramas and musicals. The Trail of the Lonesome Pine shows how well he could play the classic good guy, which would become his trademark part. Frederick made more cash as he became more well-known. At $420,000 a year in 1943, he was one of the 4 highest-paid people in the United States and the highest-paid star in Hollywood. The next year, when he made $439,000, he solidified his place at the top of Hollywood's pay scale. During World War II, Frederick did not join the service. He bought war bonds and watched out for air raids in his Brentwood neighborhood. Those were both things he did to help win the war. During this time, most of his movies were supposed to inspire the troops, not to be overtly violent. Frederick's movie career took off even after the war was over. A funny thing happened in 1947 while they were shooting The Egg and I. Within the movie, the hens laid over 300 eggs. A total of 50 boxes of eggs were signed by Claudette Colbert and Frederick. The eggs were then taken to a nearby farmer's market, and all the money made was given to the Braille Institute of America. Frederick MacMurray was often cast as the nice main character, but he liked playing parts that were different from that. He said that the parts that let him be himself the most were the ones that paid off the most. In the great noir movie Double Indemnity, Frederick gave a performance that will go down in movie history. In this great work by Billy Wilder, an insurance salesman called Walter Neff and his lustful wife planned to kill their husband. Frederick took on the part. Frederick loved this part because it was so different from the nice guy parts he usually played. It was in 1956 that he said this part showed that I could really act. Another big change from his regular characters was in Edward Demetrius's book, The Caine Mutiny. Frederick played a shady and manipulative character named Lieutenant Thomas Kiefer in this scene. After taking a break for 6 years, he worked with Billy Wilder again on the flat, this time as the shady businessman Jeff Sheldrake. Frederick could show off his range in these roles because he was good at playing characters with many layers and questionable morals. They showed how versatile he was as an actor and added more depth to his resume. At the end of the 1950s, Frederick MacMurray began to think about what he could do with TV. He made a successful return to radio in Bright Star, which he co-starred in with Irene Dunne. Frederick played a small-town news reporter in this show. Frederick didn't want to get too involved with TV because he had already done well in the movie business. He told Hedda Hopper that he had been offered the part of Perry Mason on TV in a 1956 interview. Even though he was asked, he turned down the offer because he didn't want to work on TV. There's a lot of work to do, so the person is probably just lazy. Although Frederick was hesitant at first, he became well known on TV. The TV show, His Three Sons, was very famous from 1960 to 1972. Frederick's work became famous after 12 seasons of this show, which solidified his place in television history. Frederick kept acting in movies even though he was on My Three Sons. In 2 Disney movies, The Absent-Minded Professor and Son of Flubber, he played Professor Ned Brainerd. Frederick gained a new group of fans with his funny roles in these family-friendly movies. For Frederick's TV job, good conditions were possible because he was a famous person. His agreement with My Three Boys said that he would be videotaped first, and that the filming would happen over 2 separate months. Frederick had more time to take care of his land in Northern California, play golf, and look for work in movies because his schedule was shorter. We've talked about Frederick's career enough, in my view. Now we'll talk about his love life. Frederick, like many other people, had a friend who helped him reach his goals. Frederick MacMurray got married twice during his life. Both relationships were marked by friendship, respect, and love. In 1934, a terrible meeting happened in the busy streets of New York City. Young and eager actor Frederick MacMurray was seen performing with the California Collegians in the Broadway show of Roberta. His first wife, Lillian Lamont, whom he met at this time, became his wife. They became instantly and strongly connected. In the bright lights of Broadway, they fell deeply in love with each other. MacMurray had to leave New York and his new love interest when the pressures of his growing career called him back to Hollywood. MacMurray got into a funny fight when he got back to Hollywood. Luella Parsons, a famous gossip writer who likes to get involved in people's love lives, contacted a charming actor. Because his heart had already said so much, MacMurray politely turned down her offer. Such a rejection did not make Parsons happy. According to other stories, the journalist who felt insulted tried to get back at MacMurray by trying to ruin his career. According to different reports, newspaper mogul William Randolph Hearst had already set up a different date for the actor, and MacMurray had turned down his offer. It looks like all cuts have healed over time, no matter what they were. The love between MacMurray and Lamont got stronger over time, even though they lived far apart. They told the press something strange in 1934. They were only engaged for a short time. They were able to see if they were compatible before making an official commitment by going against the grain. MacMurray gave more details about their reasoning, saying that they wanted to make sure that their traits would work well with the jobs they had chosen. In the early months of 1936, this careful approach showed that the couple had a realistic view of things and was determined to build a strong foundation for their relationship. The time had come to act, and MacMurray and Lamont were ready. They boarded a plane to Las Vegas with MacMurray's mother on June 19, 1936, in the evening. Their plan was to get married without the media seeing, without telling anyone, which caught friends and studio staff by surprise. When word got out that the star had gone missing, everyone ran to find them. They didn't know that MacMurray and Lamont were getting married in the most famous wedding spot in the world. The newlyweds and MacMurray's mom went back to Hollywood on the same day that they shocked everyone with an unplanned wedding. With this small rite, they began their life together as husband and wife. The MacMurray family moved into a two-story colonial house in Brentwood in 1945. It had 10 rooms. Notable people who lived in their new neighborhood included Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda. After settling down quickly at home, they became known as one of Hollywood's happy couples. The MacMurrays liked to be alone, but they were not completely shut off. They loved having their Hollywood friends over for both small and big events. They were close with Clark Gable and Carole Lombard, and on Sundays, they often had barbecues together. Lombard's appearance at these events always made them more exciting. The crowd would laugh out loud at her funny words and acts. Their marriage added a bit of Hollywood glitz to the MacMurrays' otherwise calm home life. It was full of love and happiness, but it also had its share of problems. For a long time, Lillian had problems with her heart and kidneys. The couple was thought to have chosen to adopt because of these health problems. Susan was born in 1940. She was the first child for the MacMurray family. The adoption was completed in 1942, and the joys of motherhood came into their home. For years later, when Robert was 1.5 years old, they added him to their family. Even though their family made them happy, Lillian's health kept getting worse. Her health started to get worse in the early 1950s. She died in June 1953, not long after the couple enjoyed their 17th wedding anniversary. Years after the fact, in 2006, a biography of MacMurray talked to Lillian's cousin and found out that Lillian had bulimia. Her eating disorder, which may have started when she was modeling, may have made her health problems worse for the rest of her life. Lillian had brought so much happiness into MacMurray's life through love, friendship, and family that losing her was a terrible blow. MacMurray was still processing his loss when he got another surprise. MacMurray ran with June Haver in 1953. They had briefly worked together and they had briefly met in 1945 while shooting Where Do We Go From Here, but didn't talk much after that. It had been 8 years, and neither of them wanted to go to Wayne's party. Still, that terrible night would change their lives in ways they could never have dreamed. MacMurray and Haver didn't want to go to the party, but they did. They left together. After something clicked, they quickly became an item. Jane Haver was having a hard time at this point in her life. Dr. John Duzek, who was going to marry her, died suddenly in 1949. She really thought about making a choice that would change her life after this tragedy. Because Haver was very religious, he had thought about going into the convent. In 1951, she even met with Pope Pius XII to talk about her calling. After this experience, she decided she wanted to join a nun. However, Haver realized after 8 months that she did not want to live in a convent. She didn't know it, but her true goal would bring her back to the theater business, where Frederick MacMurray welcomed her. MacMurray and Haver's relationship grew after they saw each other again at John Wayne's party. They chose to move forward with their relationship after a socially accepted amount of time had passed since Lillian's death. The way MacMurray asked Haver to marry him was also unique. To ask her to marry him, he bought the artist Red Skelton's good luck pinky ring. Following a routine visit to the drugstore, the real proposal took place. In the first week of August 1954, they made their wedding date public, which added a bit of magic to their love story. But they got married on June 28th, which was more than a month early, which made their reporters' friends very angry. Thanks to their friend Ray Cardillo, who owns a travel business, MacMurray and Haver were able to get married at the beautiful Ojai Valley Inn. After getting married without planning to in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the couple went on their honeymoon while MacMurray finished shooting The Far Horizons. In 1954, MacMurray talked about Haver's big surgery after he fell at Fox Studios a few years before. So, the couple wasn't sure if Haver could have children. It was still their choice to adopt a child, even though this was a problem. The couple had 2 girls, Lorianne and Katie Marie, in 1956. They are fraternal twins. MacMurray fondly remembered how they took in the twins as soon as they were born. Haven chose to take a break from her job in Hollywood after she got married to MacMurray. She played a part in an episode of the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour in 1958 that would be her last time on TV. Are you pleased with her choice? As if she were, Haver said she no longer wanted to be an actress. The new duties she had as a wife and mother made her happy. She said, "No matter what, I have a lot to keep me busy now that I have 4 kids." It was clear to MacMurray that he would not get in the way of Haver's plans to return to acting, and he backed her choice. Dear Mr. said he didn't want to be the one to take her off the show. It's up to her to decide. I would rather she stay at home, but I don't mind if she wants to take pictures. There was happiness and stability in MacMurray's second marriage, which came after his first to Lillian Lamont. Their unbreakable bond was based on respect for each other, similar values, and a strong commitment to family. Frederick MacMurray's personal life was happy and full, but as he got older, he began to sense that there was a darker side to things. Her relaxed days of Hollywood fame started to fade as her health got worse and her death became more likely. Because he smoked for so long, MacMurray will have to deal with bad things. He was told he had throat cancer in the late 1970s, which was a painful reminder of what he had done to deserve it. 10 years after the first fight, the cancer came back, putting his health at even greater risk. Many health problems were present. Cancer was one of them. MacMurray had a major stroke in December 1988 that made it hard for him to talk and move his right side of his body. Damage had already been done, and it was clear that it hurt. MacMurray died from leukemia, a cruel cancer he had been fighting for more than 10 years. He was so sick with many things that he died of pneumonia in Santa Monica, California, on November 5, 1991. Even though MacMurray had a happy and successful private life, time and the weight of his own choices finally got the best of him. The evil that had crept into the life of a famous Hollywood star ended it too soon.